Hi, Heather. Hi, audience.
Hey Mike, hey everyone. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. And yourself?
Doing good.
That's,
So, did you
Mhm.
have fun last weekend? Like what happened?
Yeah, so last week, as you know, we didn't do a show because I was in Yosemite.
Cool. So tell us about it. What was it like?
Well, there's two things that made it a lot different from a normal Yosemite trip. Number one is because of the coronavirus, they have significantly reduced entry. So there were no day visitors allowed. You had to have either a campground or a lodge or hotel reservation or some kind of a permit, like to do Half Dome. So that probably cut down the number of visitors by 80%. And then also with all the wildfires all over the place, including one in Yosemite, but in a different part of it, the air was just really, really smoky.
Wow.
Like if you looked at the sun, it just looked like a red circle in the sky. Yeah. So, but however, if it hadn't, been for the coronavirus, I probably wouldn't have been able to get lodging in the park. So, so it's difficult to get into Yosemite on short notice, which was the case here. And, I'm proud to say that I finally crossed something off my bucket list, the famous Half Dome hike.
Oh, sweet.
Yep, and that's something that's also it's difficult to get a permit to do that, but because the air was so smoky, there was no ranger at the what's called the not the chains, but there's a section with cables at the end that you have to hold on to get to the top. And normally there's a ranger there checking for permits, but there was just nobody there because I think that what few people, they normally give out 300 permits a day, and I would hazard to say that 2/3 of them just didn't show up because the air was so smoky.
Wow. Did you have any trouble? Did you have like lung problems, chest problems?
No, I wore two masks, not because of the coronavirus, but just because the air was so thick with smoke.
Wow.
But yeah,
So,
no, I did it just fine. Yeah, it's seven. It's I think 16 and a half miles and
wow.
4,800 feet of elevation gain. So yeah, that's a good one to cross off my list. But I liked it so much, I'd love to do it again on a normal
Sweet.
day.
And are we going to see pictures of this on your social media?
I haven't been able to log into my Facebook account because when I try to log into my business account, I get this thing that says too many redirect errors. And I've looked online about that, and they say to clear your cookies and clear your cache, which I did. And then there's this other step that you can do that everyone recommends, which I did, and that didn't help. So I am just unable to get into my Wizard of Odds Facebook account. My personal one I can get into. Um, but I did post the story of the Half Dome trip in the newsletter that comes out today. So you can look for that if you're a subscriber, and you can find the old newsletters at Wizard of Odds. But yeah, once I get into my Facebook account, I will start posting pictures.
Cool. Now, if you're not a subscriber, how do you subscribe?
You go to the bottom of, well, I think that if you don't have a cookie already, a Wizard of Odds cookie, it will bug you to subscribe. But otherwise, go to Wizard of Odds and just click on anything pertaining to newsletter, and then I'm sure you'll find a way to subscribe to it.
Okay, cool. Very nice.
Yep.
So,
So,
do do
did
we
you have
have
another
a
question to ask me?
I do. Yes. So can you tell us what's going on with that online casino?
Yes, I want to warn everybody that one of the biggest sports books that takes U.S. players online, Five Dimes, has suddenly decided to close to U.S. players. And they are giving them until September 25th to get their money out. And they say that if you don't, that they're going to transfer it to some entity that will attempt to return the money. But so I strongly urge all U.S. players with a Five Dimes account to get their money out. And what happened to me is I had $9,000 in bets on Trump to win the election. And again, I'm not endorsing Trump, nor am I endorsing Biden. I just think Trump is going to win. So no political comments, please. And they refunded all of those, which I think is totally unfair, because
Wow.
some of them I got like plus 160 odds, and now it's close to an even money bet. So it's totally unfair to me that the value that those bets increased just all got refunded. So I'm a little angry about that. But never, and so they say that due to everyone withdrawing, that it takes 2 to 4 days to process a withdrawal. I put in mine 3 days ago and it still hasn't processed. So, and September 25th is just 8 days away. So 5 Dimes players, American players, get your money out. I can't stress that enough. And this doesn't seem to be widely known. So I'm trying to put that information out there.
Oh, that's good to know. And thank you so much for telling everyone about that. And yeah,
You're welcome.
If you guys have an account, get that money out of there.
Yep. And before I forget to say so, I'd like to thank Father Michael for filling in for me 2 weeks ago.
That was a lot of fun. So are we going to do something again like that today?
Yes, today we are going to do national park trivia in honor of my visit to Yosemite.
Awesome.
And I was going to do just Yosemite trivia, but I couldn't find enough questions about it.
So while we're doing that Yosemite trivia, if you guys have any questions or anything that you want to ask the wizard, go ahead and put it in the chat. So that way we could go back and forth like we did last time.
Oh, I am reading Anne's comment. Thank you very much, Anne. And yes, I do recall you have a picture of Half Dome in your apartment. So, oh boy. Well, thanks for embarrassing me. I should have known it was Half Dome. By the way, speaking of how smoky it was, like at that viewing place of El Capitan, I got out and took a picture of it, and you could barely even see El Capitan, so close to it because the air was so thick with smoke. Okay, well, I don't see any question. Oh, wait, yes, I do. Somebody mentioned $150,000 video poker win. No, I didn't hear about that. So let's jump in with some national park trivia, and we'll kind of alternate between trivia and questions.
Sounds good.
You people that showed up early, this is a good time to get your questions in. But here's question number 1, and I'll start with an easy one. What was the first national park?
Okay, first national park. So if you guys know the answer to that, put that in the chat and we will take a look at it. And while we are waiting for people to answer that, do we have any questions from the forum?
Yes, we do. Let's see. RX Wine asks, assuming Vegas survives the corona and also needs to up its game to keep people coming to gamble, do you think a zeppelin floating over the casino would bring the gamblers? You know, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I would love to see that anywhere.
You haven't seen that before? We have one. A little airship that looks like a little miniature zeppelin.
Where do you get onto that?
Okay, I know I've seen it before. Like in the 38 years that I've lived in this city, I know I've seen it before in the air. I know it. And it's like a little
blimp.
Yeah, it's like a little blimp, and it's like a little advertising blimp and everything.
And can it go anywhere, or is it tied with ropes and basically just goes up and down?
No, it could go anywhere. It's not like a balloon or something.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood his question, but you know, I going on a blimp is another thing on my bucket list. I bet a lot of people would enjoy it. I'm not sure why you don't see it more often. Maybe it's just too expensive to be popular. I don't know, but I would love to do that. But the fact that I haven't seen much of that elsewhere suggests to me that it's cost prohibitive. So that's about as far as I can take that one. The same person asks, would you pose naked for a women's magazine or for a men's magazine or a gambling magazine to win a bet? You know, if I was paid enough money, I would do it. I
want to know how much.
Look at me, and no one would offer. But,
you never know. How much would you do it for? You might get an offer.
I'll do it for $50,000.
Sweet. And it'll be like Marilyn Monroe poses. It'll be really cool.
Yeah, and it would also depend a little on how much I had to show, but yeah, that's kind of my offer out there.
We could do something with Betty Page too. Like do Betty Page poses.
I would probably want to do something a little masculine, but
Okay.
I doubt anyone would pay even $5. So it's kind of a moot question.
Well,
Okay.
we have answers to your question, and the first answer we got was Yellowstone. Is that correct?
Correct. It looks like the credit goes to Tom H.
Yay.
Good job, Tom H. Wasn't Tom H one of the savants with the Bible trivia?
Yeah, he kills it every time.
Tom, good job. Okay, question number 2.
Okay.
What is the largest national park by area?
Okay. So
and while you guys are thinking about that, and again, no cheating, no searching, give me another question, Heather. Give me one from the peanut gallery.
Sounds good. So this is from Hoffman. How do you calculate the chance of the dealer busting if you don't have the odds of the hands?
I do this in I have a YouTube video where I show how this can be done in a spreadsheet, as long as you assume an infinite number of decks, which is a perfectly legitimate assumption. However, if you want to use a finite number of decks, then I use a recursive program in C++, and it's pretty easy programming.
I think Pickle wants to be on the show. I think he's getting jealous of you.
Hi, Pickle. Do you want more attention?
Looks like it. So we have a couple guesses, and
See
the
yourself?
first one, yeah. Hey, Pickle.
Hey, Pickle.
John says Grand Canyon. Is that correct?
It is not correct.
Ooh.
Okay. Okay. Well, do we have any other guesses?
I don't see any other guesses.
I'd be really surprised if anyone gets it.
Yeah, I don't see any other guesses in the chat. That was the only one.
So the answer is the Wrangell St. Elias National Park in Alaska.
Oh, okay.
I think that one is way up in the Arctic, so doesn't get a whole lot of attention.
Have you ever been up there?
I've been to Alaska 3 times, but the furthest north I've ever been is Fairbanks. So yeah, I haven't been to that national park. Would love to, though.
What is the coldest weather you've ever experienced?
When I lived in Baltimore, I remember one day going to work, it was -7 Fahrenheit. And so once in a while it would get below 0. But wait, speaking of Fairbanks, when I did go to Fairbanks, there was this thing you could do where you could go into a room that was about -50 Fahrenheit. And before you went in, you put on this real thick coat and mittens and everything. And, I was like expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was expecting to maybe not make it out alive or anything. But with all that clothing on, it really wasn't bad. Like, I think once the temperature gets to about 0, it's just cold. You don't notice the difference between 0 and -50. And yeah, and I remember the lady that ran it came in with a cup of water and threw it in the air, and all the water crystallized before it hit the ground. It was that fast.
Wow.
Yeah. So naturally it would be about -7, and that was in Baltimore.
So that's basically the equivalent of here in Las Vegas, where someone either cooks cookies in their car because it's 120 degrees, or they fry an egg on the sidewalk, which, by the way, I've seen done both of those.
I've heard that this thing about frying eggs on the sidewalk doesn't really work even on the hottest of days.
No, it does.
It does.
And you make a huge mess, and then your mom yells at you for doing it.
But did it fry an egg just as well as, say, a frying pan on a stove?
Well, you wouldn't want to eat it, that's for sure. But it was cooked.
I mean,
it was yolky in the middle.
Okay, but did the white part at least become solid?
There were some solid white parts in there. It wasn't all like what you would see in a pan, but it was cooked.
I'm going to have to try this. We're getting to the point.
You could see it on YouTube.
Okay, I'm going to look into this on YouTube after the show.
Okay.
Okay. Here's the next trivia question. Okay, in the lower 48 states, what is the largest national park by area?
So if you guys know, put it in the chat. And until then, Let's have another question.
Okay.
Mo the Cat, how do sports betting lines work? Does a shift in odds or points vary to reflect what the bettors think, or the odds maker, or are the odds maker trying to cover their actions? Maybe a separate video is needed for this.
It's all based on the market, and it's the goal of the sports book director to win no matter which side of a game wins. So if he's getting too much action on one side of a game, he will adjust the odds to incentivize action on the other side, and discourage it on the side that he has too much action on. So it's all basically the market that does it. And they also, a good sports book director should also know like where the sharp money is coming from, and they can tell that by all the beards that sit in the sports book all day, and they might know that that guy with the red hat is a runner for, say, Billy Walters, and if he makes a bet, that's probably the side that the sharp side. So that's about as far as I can take that one.
Cool.
Okay.
Now, we do have a couple guesses.
Okay.
Is it Yosemite?
Nope.
Okay. How about Death Valley?
Correct. Death Valley. Who gets the point for that one?
Tom H again.
Tom H again. You are the savant of the show. Okay, next question is, what is the smallest national park by area?
Smallest national park by area. I think it's sitting on your microphone right there. And by the way, he is so cute. He is stealing the show being on that microphone.
Do you like it how he puffs up his feathers? He's trying to impress you, Heather. Look at my wing.
He's showing off.
Yes.
I love that little bird. He's so cute.
Okay, so shall we take a turn with a Wizard of Vegas question?
Yes, definitely. And this is from one of our favorite viewers, from Anne. If you could trade places with any living person in a current time for 1 week, who would you trade places with and why? I love that question.
I would love to see what it's like to be a woman for a week. So that narrows it down to half the population. And I think I would pick somebody, yeah, let me think about that one.
Cool.
Yeah. But while I'm thinking, here's one from the Wizard of Vegas. Somebody asks, what do you think about this guy on CNN who calls himself the Wizard of Odds in some sort of odds calculating contest? So yeah, there is some guy on CNN who's a political commentator. Who's not a political commentator, but he comments on the odds of the election and polling and stuff like that. And I can't claim any ownership to the name Wizard of Odds. I wasn't the first one to think of it, so I can't get too angry about it. But I'd be happy to take him on in anything at all, as some sort of a contest to see who is the real wizard.
Man, I'm looking forward to that show where he's a guest and you guys duel. I want to see that. So we have an answer to the question, and is it the Isle Royale in Michigan?
Nope.
Okay.
I know there was I'm not sure it was this one, but there was a national park in Michigan that I think was an island that was returned to the state of Michigan. But yeah, again, I'm not sure if it was that one.
Okay.
So anyway, any other guesses?
Is it the Allegheny Mountain Park?
Allegheny, I think it's how it's pronounced, and no, it's not that.
Okay. And that's all the guesses we got.
Okay, the answer is the Hot Springs National Park in Arkansas.
Oh, cool. Have you ever been there? Have you been in the hot springs?
Nope, never been to that national park. I've been to hot springs before, lots of them, but never in Arkansas.
Did you go to the Gold Strike Hot Springs here in Las Vegas?
Oh, many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Good hike.
When I tell people about it, I'm like, oh, you gotta go. It's so cool. It's the hot springs, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, don't let any water get in your mouth or nose because there's like a brain-eating bacteria in there that will totally eat your brain. But it's fun. Go for it. It's a blast. And they're looking at me like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm not going anywhere near that place.
I think you're overdoing it with that warning. I think you have to completely submerge your head for those brain-eating bacteria to enter your brain. I think if you just got your nose or your ears a little bit wet, you would be fine.
That's what
I don't think there has been a single case of that caused by either the Gold Strike or the Arizona Hot Spring.
Have you heard the rumor, and this is completely a rumor, I'm pretty sure it's not true, but it's a total rumor. Have you heard the rumor where the hot springs water got into Lake Mead and now there's like brain-eating bacteria in Lake Mead?
No, I haven't heard that. And
okay.
And furthermore, that would be practically impossible because Lake Mead is upstream of the Gold Strike Hot Spring.
Yeah, it is. So how did that happen? No, and there's a bunch of like holes in the story and everything. And Lake Mead's not hot enough, and there's too much water and everything, so it would disperse. And there's a bunch. But I heard that rumor, and I was like, "No, are you serious? No.
These microbes like the hot water."
Yeah.
But one thing I would warn people about is sometimes there is not a pool of hot water to sit in because it must be sandbagged. I think it's between needing sandbags and the flow of water that if you don't have both of those, there won't be any place to sit in the water. So sometimes you have a great experience, and sometimes you just get this trickle of hot water that goes right into the Colorado River. So it's kind of, you take your chances.
Yeah.
And what bothers me is some people think that the sandbags are unnatural and deliberately kick them down. They do that at the Arizona Hot Spring too. So anyway. Okay, I think we're ready for another question, right?
Yep, let's go to another question.
I mean trivia question.
Well, we need the answer for the last trivia question.
Oh, didn't I say it was the Great Smoky Mountains National Park?
You might have.
Oh no. That was the answer to my next question, which was supposed to be, what is the most visited national park? And the answer to that, as I just said, is the Great Smoky Mountains. Tom H probably would have known that. So we're gonna have to skip that one, and we will say, what is the second most visited national park?
Okay, so if you guys know, put it in the chat. And while we are waiting, our next question is from Source Keen. When it comes to slot machines, does the casino pay whoever pushed the button regardless of who put the money in the machine?
Yes, if there's ever a dispute about who won the jackpot, it goes to the person pressing the buttons on the machine, not the person who shoved money into it.
Yeah, and we've had that problem here in Las Vegas before. For example, like someone puts in the money and they go to the bathroom and they have a friend play it and the friend wins a jackpot and takes the money. Well, it was my money. Well, he hit the button. Another one is
even if the person who went to the bathroom, I think if they both say, no, please give the money to this person in the W2G, they will not do that if that wasn't the person who pressed the button that triggered the bet.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely the person who basically pressed spin.
And it goes for underage children too, because we had that problem where the megabucks was hit, but it ended up being from this kid that wasn't 21. The mother let him hit the button, and he's the one that hit the jackpot. And then she shoved him out of the seat and was like, "Oh, I won the jackpot." And they went back in the cameras, and since he pushed the button and he was under 21, they didn't get the megabucks.
Yeah. Okay. Any answers to my question? The second most visited national park?
Yellowstone again?
Nope.
Okay, how about Tom H says, how about the Great Smoky Mountains?
Nope.
And that's pretty much it. No more guesses.
Okay. The answer is the Grand Canyon.
Oh, okay, there's the Grand Canyon.
Yep, you had to know it would come in there somewhere. Okay, let's go to a Wizard of Vegas question. Someone asks about my opinion about the casinos reopening. Have they done it profitably and safely? This is getting out of my area. I think they're being fairly safe about it. Like, they do require masks now. And a shout out to the Bellagio and the Aria that have hand washing stations. However, one thing I don't like is that you don't have to wear a mask if you're drinking or smoking. The drinking I can kind of see, but it would be nice if if they at least temporarily banned smoking, or made you do it outside.
Didn't we have a Park MGM just say that they went completely non-smoking, or one of the casinos? Yeah,
Park MGM. So kudos to them, and I will highly recommending my non-smoking friends stay there.
Awesome.
Okay, let's go on to the next national park trivia question.
Sounds good.
Which state has the most national parks? In fact, there's a tie. So which two tie for the most national parks?
Okay, you guys, which state has the most national parks? Put it in the chat. We will get you to your answers. My guess, I'm going to say Washington, D.C.
No, Washington, D.C. has just basically the National Mall. And I think that's a national monument as opposed to a national park. I'm not sure.
Oh,
so it's definitely not Washington, D.C.
I was just kidding, because they're not even a state.
Okay, I see Tom H says Utah. That is wrong. Utah has 5, but there's some states that have more. Michael S, Colorado, good guess, but that is not right. And let's see, Wyoming, nope. California is one of them. Good job, John Thomas, but I need one more. That ties with California at 8.
Oh, 8. Okay. How about Colorado?
Nope, that's already been guessed.
And Alaska?
Yes, correct. James Kim, good job. The other one is Alaska. So here's the next question to percolate on. Which national park has the largest cave system in the United States?
That sounds like
while the audience is percolating on that, I think I didn't properly answer the last question. So about the reopening, I'm not a scientist. I think the casinos are doing a pretty decent job of keeping things safe. I'm a lot more worried about like Fremont Street, where you just see big crowds of people and only half of them are wearing masks. I think that could stand to have more policing. And in terms of profitability, I mean, everyone in Vegas is still singing the blues about money, but I think that the casinos on average are losing less now than they were being completely shut down. So that's about as far as I can take that one. It's getting kind of out of my area.
Okay.
So how about a question from the live audience, Heather?
Sounds good. So we got a question from String Bean. What is your favorite casino game?
In terms of like the fun factor, Pai Gow Tiles. So that's a question we get a lot. I just find it a very challenging, intellectual, and fun game, and you meet really smart people playing it. So I mean, and to be honest, usually when I play it, people often recognize me because I was the one that, if I may toot my own horn, who kind of opened up that game to non-Asian players by explaining it and analyzing it. So I think that if you see someone who's not Asian playing it, again, to toot my own horn, they probably learned it from me. And so therefore I often get recognized at the tables, and it's fun to, like, lots of times people will have in their pocket a printout of my strategy, which I'm happy to autograph. So yeah, I love Pai Gow Tiles. It's not the best odds, but it's the most fun for me.
Very
okay.
Cool.
Any answers to the biggest cave system in the US?
Okay, biggest cave system. Would it be Montana?
I'm looking for the exact national park.
Okay, New Mexico, Carlsbad, is that one?
Nope, incorrect.
How about Mammoth Cave National Park?
Yes, correct. Alec, you get a point. It is Mammoth Caves National Park. But here's a related question. Which national park has the deepest cave in the US?
Ooh.
And while you guys are percolating on that, somebody asks, Frank, Dino, or Sammy? And I'm going with Sammy. How about you, Heather?
Sammy.
All right, we're in agreement. And second would be Frank, and third would be Dino.
Yeah.
Okay, but I won't elaborate on that one.
Do you want to do a question while we wait for people to answer?
Yes, ask me one.
Okay, cool. So our next question comes from James. On an extremely lucky blackjack round using basic strategy, how high can the winning percentage go? For example, out of around 140 games in one round, how many games can someone win using basic strategy?
Yeah, this kind of question requires some math, but to just kind of wing this one, let's see, the standard deviation in blackjack is about 1.15. So let's take the square root of 140 and multiply that by 1.15. So one standard deviation is going to be 13.6. So like 3 standard deviations would be extremely lucky. I think that only happens it's either 0.3 or 0.15% of the time. And so let's multiply that by 3. So I think about the luckiest you'll ever, but then we should also subtract a few hands just because of the house edge. So if it wasn't for the house edge, I would say 41 wins above expectations but you asked about a winning percentage. So why don't we deduct, let's deduct 1.8 hands for the house edge. And so normally you would expect to win 70, but if you're really, really lucky, you might win about 40 more. So I'm going to say 110 wins out of 140 would be like a 1 in 1,000 kind of thing in blackjack. And that's just going off the top of that's just doing some quick calculations with my good old HP 15C calculator, the best calculator ever made.
That's an old school calculator.
And I'm proud of it. No, my father gave me this when I graduated from high school. And I have been a HP reverse Polish notation fan ever since.
That's awesome.
I see Pickle pooped on my list of national park trivia questions. I guess he didn't care for them.
He didn't like them very much. That's what he thought
Clean
about
that
it.
here.
So we had a couple answers to your question. Is it a glacier?
Nope.
How about Crater Lake?
So again, the question is which national park has the deepest? Did I say lake? I meant to say cave, but given that
Cave. You said cave.
Okay. So Crater Lake, no. Guys, this one I kind of thought was an easy one. I can't tell you guys this one. The deepest cave in a national park.
Okay, so if you guys know.
Or which national park has the deepest cave? Okay. Okay, here's the final Wizard of Vegas question. How do you feel about the Welcome to Las Vegas sign? I feel it used to be a lone beacon of mid-century modern Vegas style, but now it has become another cheesy tourist trap. Do you concur? You know, and it's funny you bring this up because just yesterday, Angela and I made a video about Vegas scams, and Angela did one about people that shake you down for tips to take your picture. Pickle, you're blocking me. At the Welcome to Las Vegas sign. I haven't experienced that, but then again, I don't really go there very often. And you know, there's often a long line there now, just to warn you. People line up to take their picture, but you know, I like that sign. I think it's indicative of like Vegas 50s style. So I haven't. Other than the line, I have nothing negative to say about it. And, you know, I also might add that they put in a parking lot like right behind it. It used to be really difficult or dangerous to park there. So, yeah, so the city put in a nice parking lot, which seems to overflow sometimes if it's really busy. But, yeah, that's about as far as I can take that one. Do you have any comments, Heather?
From the comments, I have a couple guesses, and we have another one from Tom for Carlsbad for the deepest. Is that correct?
Nope. Oh, wait. No, yes, it is. That is the deepest. Carlsbad Caverns is the deepest. So good job, Tom H. again.
Sweet.
Okay, here's the next one. Which national park has the deepest lake in the United States?
Okay, so if you guys know, put it in the chat. And until then, we'll answer another question from the Peanut Gallery. So this is from Michael S. And Michael S. says, I am currently at 131 4 to the Royals with no Royal. Doesn't this seem a little out of the ordinary? I'm playing online, same casino, same game.
All right, let's do some math on that one. So the number of Royals you would expect to see in 131,000 hands is, assuming one every 40,000, is you would expect to see 3.275. So the probability of getting 0 would be e to the negative 3.275. So let's change the sign, e to the x. So the probability of that, of not getting at least one Royal in, how many did he say? 131,000 is 3.78%. So it's bad luck, but not super bad luck.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Okay, how about, yep, there we go. Now Crater Lake is the right answer. The deepest lake in the United States. And if you don't put in the national park one, most people guess Lake Tahoe or one of the Great Lakes, but no, Crater Lake, Oregon is the correct answer. And while you're there, be sure to visit Wizard Island.
Oh, cool.
Okay, next question. Which is the only state to have neither a national park or a national monument?
Okay, no national park, no national monument. Put your put your answer in the chat below. We will read it. Until then, we have some more questions for you. And this is from Wayne. Are you open for math consultation on a casino game?
Sure. So I'm not the cheapest one. I'm going to charge about $250 an hour. If that doesn't scare you off, then approach me through one of my websites.
Sounds good. Okay, so we have another question for you. And this is, what good is wearing a mask if smoking is allowed? Isn't smoking a known public health hazard?
Absolutely. I mean, I did some math on this, and not to minimize the cost of the coronavirus, but the number of people that die from cigarette smoking is somewhere about 25 per year, is about 25% of the total that have died so far from the coronavirus. So smoking related deaths are definitely, I'm not saying that there are more per year, but it's of the same order of magnitude. And so smoking is definitely a health hazard, I'm kind of a libertarian, and I think that if someone wants to kill themselves by smoking, go ahead, but they shouldn't be allowed to kill me. And when you are smoking in a public place, you are slowly killing everyone around you. I think that is kind of a mild form of murder, and it shouldn't be allowed. Now you might say, Mike, you didn't have to enter the casino, but which would be a valid point. But up until recently, every single casino allowed smoking. So it was just kind of it was just a cost that you had to figure into going into the casino. So you can tell I have very strong feelings about that. So so now you have two dangers when you go into a casino. One is the secondhand smoke, and another is the coronavirus floating around. And that's only going to float around more because the smokers can remove their masks while they're smoking. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's my opinion about that one.
We got a couple answers for the question. Is Florida the answer?
No, they have the Everglades National Park.
How about North Dakota?
No, they have the it's some kind of like the Peace Garden National Park or something like that. So no, not North Dakota.
And
not
last
Wisconsin.
one?
Nope.
Not Wisconsin?
Nope.
That's all the ones we got.
Okay, the answer is Delaware.
Oh, cool.
And it's kind of not surprising. I hope I don't insult anyone from Delaware, but other than the beaches there's not a whole lot to see. And I kind of am allowed to say this because I lived in Baltimore for 9 years, which is right next door. What
was the weather like in Baltimore?
Well, I just told you that one day it got down to -7, and getting so the winters were just brutal. But the bad thing about it was not so much the cold. I mean, other places like Minneapolis get colder, but it happened all the time that it would go below freezing at night and go above it during the day. So what would often happen is it would rain during the day, everything would be wet, then it would drop below freezing at night, sometimes continuing to rain, and all this water everywhere would freeze over. So in the morning when you have to drive to work, it would be an ice skating rink on every street.
Oh, that's freaky.
Right. Now they would salt some of the roads, and that helped, but sometimes it got so cold that even the salt didn't help. But they did not salt the road, the first road that I had to take to get to work. And it was really badly drained, and that was always turning into an ice skating rink in the winter. And you would always see cars that, spun around and a car hit them from the other way. And lots of times the road would get completely blocked because of an accident. So that was the most frustrating thing for me about the weather in Baltimore. But also the summers would get really hot. And this is coming from someone who lived in Vegas. And yes, it didn't get as hot in terms of temperature, but it was just so humid that you could step outside for 1 minute and you would be in desperate need of a shower. You would get so sweaty.
Wow.
So yeah, I would take the weather in Vegas over Baltimore any day.
Weather in Vegas is nice.
Yeah, I think that it's not that bad, and right now it's still a little bit hot, but it's pretty nice right now.
We had a crazy summer this summer with temperatures. Wasn't it like 30 or 45 days in a row of over 110 degrees?
I don't think we went that many in a row over 110, but it was a hotter than average summer.
It's pretty hot.
So anyway, what's the next question? which national park is the furthest south?
Okay, so if you guys know, put it in the chat. And until then, we have a question from Chuck. I understand why Blackjack 6-5 is bad for the players versus 3-2. However, is the hold that much greater on a 6-5 that it's not worth changing, or it's not worth changing to bring more gamblers to Las Vegas?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I mean, the house advantage by going from 3-2 to 6-5, I think it increases the house advantage, if I remember correctly, by about 1.4%. So if a game was, say, 0.5% before, it's now gone to 1.9, which is almost 4 times as high. So that's a really significant increase. Now, I don't like talking about hold very much. This is something that the gambler doesn't have to care about. It's more of a casino statistic. I personally don't really know that much about how much 6-5 games hold compared to 3-2. I do know that a 3-2 game at a low level, like say a $10 minimum, would not make much money. I calculated that when I was at the Venetian, that it would take, I think, 3 players betting $50 an hour, $50 a hand, to just break even in a 3-2 blackjack game, and that was assuming average skill when you consider all the cost of labor of the dealer and everyone above it. So it's tough for the casinos to make money at 3-2 blackjack. So to be perfectly honest with you, I don't vilify them for changing some tables to 6-5. I used to, but I'm kind of coming around on that.
Kind of changing your mind?
Kind of changing my mind. Okay, let's see what we got here. Everglades, good guess, but no. Volcano National Park in Hawaii, even better guess, but no. Mount Hilo National Park, I didn't even know about that one, but no. I don't think you guys are going to get this one. The Hawaiian ones are really good guesses, but the correct answer is the National Park of American Samoa, the only national park south of the equator.
Cool.
There you go. And the final question, and this one doesn't have, shall we say, a quick answer, but the question is, why do the rocks move at the racetrack playa in Death Valley? And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, there's this dry lake bed in Death Valley, and you have these enormous boulders in the middle of it with a trail behind them, as if somebody had pushed them out there. And for years, it was a mystery how these rocks were moving. And the mystery was finally solved by use of people putting cameras on them and using time-lapse photography. And finally, they noticed what caused them to move. So yes, I will. Okay, Michael S. said, yes, ice is part of it, but what else is required?
And
right.
we have.
Then he adds, okay, so Tom H. adds rain and then wind. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for. So what happens is sometimes it rains, and then much like in Baltimore, it goes below freezing, and that rain turns to ice. There, good picture, Heather. That's what I'm talking about. And then, so this rain turns to ice, and then it starts to warm up again, and this ice starts to melt. So if you have basically the rock sitting on a piece of ice, and that piece of ice is sitting on another piece of ice that broke off because of the melting, and then it's windy, the wind can actually push that rock sitting on a piece of ice, sitting on another piece of ice, and the water in between them can help facilitate that gliding. So yeah, it's a combination of ice, water, and the wind.
Cool.
There you go. The mystery of the moving boulders in Death Valley. has been solved. And that's all the national park questions I have for you guys. So I see we've got 11 minutes left in the show, so let's devote those to peanut gallery questions.
Sounds good. So our next question comes from David. What state has the least amount of casinos?
2 have 0, Hawaii and Utah.
Okay. Yeah, Utah, I get it.
Okay.
Next question is from Paul. What basic fundamentals can you share for tournament play that would be handy for most games?
Okay, I get asked this a lot. One could write a whole book about it. In fact, I have 2 books on my shelf here about it. But here's the real executive summary. You have to realize that the enemy is not the dealer. The enemy is the other players. And think of it like a war. Like, let's say you're in a round and only 1 player out of 5 at that blackjack table, whoever has the most chips after so many hands, is going to advance. It does you no good if you come in second place. You must win. And to do that, you're probably going to have to take some chances. So first of all, know what the rules are. But a common set of rules is they might say, we're going to play 20 hands. You can bet as much as you wish. And the starting order will rotate around the table. So the way I do it is about the first 15 hands, I bet the minimum just to kind of feel out my competition. And lots of times, a lot of people will go broke in those first 15 hands, if the table runs bad. And I will also be able to start to see who is smart at that table. Who do I really need to worry about, either because they're smart or because they have a lot of chips. And then the good time to make a move is when you are the last to act. So let's say that it is going to be the last time you get to act. You want to act after whoever you're most worried about. So let's say it's getting near the end of the round, and you need to, let's say that you have 75% the chips of the table leader. And let's say that table leader bets small, then you should bet big. You should probably bet either half your stack or the entire stack, depending upon how much more time you have left. And if the big chip leader bets really big, then you should bet small. So the rule of thumb is that if you're behind, you want to bet opposite the chip leader. And if you are ahead, then you want to bet the same way as whoever is chasing you. And what else could I say? I hate it when I'm put in a position where I have to double or split. In a blackjack tournament, I know this kind of contradicts what I said before, but I like to make a big move around, say, the 15th hand out of 20, and hopefully I win it. And I can get other people to make stupid plays trying to chase me. What else could I say? In baccarat tournaments, you don't have to worry about making mistakes as much. And don't be when in doubt, put it out. You probably will need to make some all or nothing moves. Now, what I hate to do in a table game tournament is not advance with chips on the table. That is like being in a war and getting shot when you still have bullets in your gun. Think of your chips as ammunition. And if you're not, and you want to use that ammunition to try to take out your competition. So yeah, that is the real executive summary. That's about as much time as I'll spend on that one. So I see somebody wrote that Georgia doesn't have a casino. That I don't dispute. I don't think Texas does either, but they have other forms of gambling in those states. So when I said Utah and Hawaii, I didn't necessarily mean that other states did not have any casinos, but those are the 2 states with absolutely no legalized gambling.
And with Texas, isn't there casinos on boats on the water? So not technically like casinos in Texas? I
haven't heard of that, but I'm not saying there's not.
I'm probably thinking of something else.
You might be thinking of Florida. Okay.
So I got a question for you.
Okay.
What is the largest chip denomination you've ever seen?
I've seen 25,000 chips here in Vegas.
Anything higher than that?
You know, in the one time at the Venetian, there was a guy betting the table max in Baccarat of 100,000 a hand, and I think that they had a particular chip for that, but I don't remember what color it was. Now, I happen to have in my other room one of those big rectangular James Bond style chips from the Marina Bay Sands in Singapore. And I think that one, if I'm not mistaken, was for a million Singapore dollars. And a Singapore dollar is about the same as a US dollar. But then again, I don't think that they would take $1 million bet there. I don't remember. Yeah, but I know I've seen 25,000. That's about as high as I'll take it.
Yeah. And I think the higher you get that's when you get into the plaques. And that's what you were talking about, the James Bond style square looking chip.
I think the next show I'll show that chip to you guys.
Yeah. Love to see that.
Okay. Any more comments or questions in the 4 minutes we have left?
No, it looks like we're good for today. No more gambling related questions. So anything else you want to talk about before we end the live stream? When is the next time we're going to see you again?
Next week.
Yay.
Yep. So, yeah, next week is totally wide open for me. So, yeah, same time, same day, same time, same channel next week.
Sounds good. Cool.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll call it a show a little bit early this time. So thank you, Heather, for being my assistant, and thank you, audience, for showing up. And hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Okay, bye, everybody.